I don't know if you can see the disgust on my face. The tom was already on the ground. He was down in there. I guess you can figure out what happened next. Gone. Well, you know it, turkey season's only one day away, and I like to go in and roost a bird, and it's pouring the rain out here. It's actually supposed to turn cold tonight and turn into snow tomorrow, so we'll just have to wait and see. But if you want to kill a bird, you need to get a killing setup. That means you go in, you scout, you know where the birds are at, and you know the best places there are to get set up. That way you're not scrambling around trying to find a place. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to find and make a killing setup. I've been up here this morning before daylight. I heard a couple of birds gobble. Actually, I heard 3 birds gobble. 2 of them were down low, which was really unusual. I really don't understand why they were roosted so much further below than where they typically are. Then I heard 1 bird up high, but as soon as they hit the ground, they were silent. So that tells me, you know, it's probably in the peak breeding in my home state. So they got hens with them. And I don't know if you've ever gotten underneath a roosted bird by accident, but I have before. And the tom will gobble, and a lot of times hens will fly to him in the morning. And then they're in the trees around where he's at, and then once the hen flies down, the tom will fly down. I didn't have a video camera. I should have videoed that, but that was a big learning experience for me. A tom is just not gobbling to gobble. He's got a purpose. He's gobbling to bring the hens to him, and he can do that while he's on the roost too. Gobbling. As turkey season approaches, all I'm doing is looking at my topo maps and finding those benches, finding those steep areas where I believe there will be birds roosted. I slip in early in the morning and I just sit there and listen. I don't do any calling. I don't want to spook the birds. And in some states, it's illegal to do any preseason calling. But I just stand there and I listen. And sometimes you get lucky. You can hear some birds and you can drop some pins and come back later for a morning hunt. As I'm scouting for turkey sign, I notice some movement up to my right. And on top of this ridge, I notice there's 3 deer that are moving along. They're probably feeding through these red oaks, picking up any remaining acorns from last season. This is one of the advantages you have when you hunt in mountainous or hilly terrain. You can actually skyline animals. And when you do this, you can do it at a greater distance where they typically don't know that you're there, especially when the wind's in your favor or you've got enough trees blocking your view from them. But as you turkey hunt, one of the things you need to remember is turkeys have a safety zone. They will allow you to encroach upon that safety zone to a certain degree. And if you're closing that distance faster than they like, they will immediately start walking off. And if you get any closer, then they'll take the flight. This is something to remember while you're scouting for turkey sign and getting prepared for the upcoming season. All right, I'm just about 5,200 feet up, just a little over 5,200 feet in elevation. And this is an unusual area. There's no trees up here, very little. And there's been a lot of research done as why there's not any trees up here. I don't know if it's the soil or the weather, but there's not. But they call these the bogs. It's a really interesting place. So you can actually get above the tree line, which typically you don't see until you get out west. So in the Appalachian Mountains you get a wide variety of topography and different things. But I still haven't seen a turkey. Haven't heard a turkey yet either. Nice thing about being up here too is there's no houses. It started out sunny this morning, now it's turned off cloudy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ease back down, go back through some of those oak trees and try to find some scratch signs. I didn't bring any rain gear with me today. That's the way it goes sometimes, you get out here, you got all these plans, and you forget something and the weather changes. So we're gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna get back down, look for some scratch sign. Hopefully we'll get a bird to gobble on its own, and then we'll just pin the location. But we're still out here scouting for turkeys. Whoo! Whoo, 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 whoo. On this particular morning, the birds were very vocal, and it seemed like the toms were really aggressive. They continued gobbling long after the roost, and they were on the ground. This gobbling continued until about 8 o'clock in the morning. Some days it's like this. Some days they're not with hens, and they're seeking to try to find a hen so they can breed. So just take advantage of it when these days come. As the gobbling continues on this morning, I'm taking notes on where the location of the birds are relative to where they were roosting, because that gives me a good indication of where I can be potentially on a morning setup. So what I do is look at my maps, and I can drop some pins and come back in there on an opening morning or another day during the hunting season. But it's always to your advantage, and I'm always amazed to see how many people spend countless hours and hours scouting for deer sign, trying to find a location where they can set up their stands. But yet when turkey season comes around, I don't know of many people that do much scouting. They figure out where some birds are, they go in, listen, and try to run to the tree. A lot of times you can eliminate some of the guesswork. Now, not all the time, but some of the time you can eliminate the guesswork by going in and scouting and have potential opening morning setups. And if the birds are there, you're in business. I don't know if you can hear those birds, but there's 2 or 3 birds gobbling on that ridge over there on that other mountain. I was just over there last week and didn't hear anything. So today's Monday, I'll just take a few notes. I don't know if there's a pattern here or not. Several birds gobbling there. And there was actually one gobbling over here. You see this little bench, but I haven't heard him again, so he may be with a hen. So I'm just gonna sit here. I don't know if any of these birds are gonna come across. There's a lot of scratch sign in here. So we'll just wait. We still got about 5 days left before opening season. And the forecast is for rain. So we'll just have to wait and see. But rain or not, we'll have to be out here. So we can get some of these birds on the ground, but several birds were gobbling on that ridge over there. Okay, I've been sitting here this morning just being really quiet. And this is an area I'm familiar with. And I've set up just a little ground blind. Got a group of trees right there, piled some brush in place, and I got here and set up. Had Jake come through with a couple of hens this morning, and then Tom started gobbling probably 100 yards north of where I'm sitting. And he actually just come across, and I don't know if I got a video, but he was on this little logging road here gobbling back and forth, and I tried to sneak over, which probably wasn't the best idea, but you did see his head. Hopefully I got his head on video, and I got a video of another bird, like another Tom, but he was an immature bird. So it just goes to show you, even though you're not hearing anything, go somewhere that you know there's going to be birds. And if you look around, there's a lot of red oaks in here. So there's some leftover acorns. I just got up here and just sat down, and I've been sitting here for an hour, and all of a sudden the birds started coming out. They wasn't vocal, but I had the two hens and Jake come out, and then the Tom started gobbling behind and come around us, or come around me to this point right here. In areas that you're familiar with, go in and get you some places set up that you can hunt. Now this is a bench. You can see this comes down and it flattens out, and what they do is they come across. And in this case, there's another bench up there, and that Tom actually come across up there and then come down on this old logging road and was coming around. And he was just going back and forth on that logging road gobbling. But that will give you an advantage when you go in the woods, because a lot of times we're looking for a tree or stump or rock or something to get behind. And if you're in an area where you know there's some birds, go ahead and find you some places, get them brushed in, add a little camouflage, and then you'll be ready to go. That gives you an advantage when you get in the woods. That way you're not trying to scramble around trying to find a place to get set up. And this is what these turkeys are still feeding on. You got some leftover acorns, so they can eat on those. If you want to get in a killing setup, make sure you've got it camouflaged and brushed in. Now the thing about it is, a lot of times in the mountains, on flat terrain it's not as bad, but in the mountains, if you call, they'll go above you, okay? So he probably heard those two hens and Jake that came through. They did see me videoing and they took off. He probably heard them, but he still came above and got the advantage point. That's one of the things in the mountains you gotta be concerned about, is you wanna get above them. So if you're calling, say if I'm calling on this bench, then I'm gonna go get up there above it. Try to get the elevation on the bird, because a lot of times they'll try to come in on top of you and they'll get the vantage point by getting above you. So this is just, I'll go around, I'll show you what I'm doing here. It rained last night, so I just brought some plastic in here to sit down on, get off the wet ground, and I just got this brushed in. And it helps conceal me. I've got a nice fork stick here in case I need to shoot whenever the hunting season opens up. It opens up this coming Saturday. But go ahead and get prepared. I don't understand, a lot of times I don't understand why hunters don't go in and scout for birds. Gives you a big advantage. You go in and find some scratch sign on this, like on this bench right here. I'd go down to that lower edge of the bench and I'd call a few times. Then I'd walk back up here and sit down in this area right here and call to them. Now I have killed a bird in here before, sitting right here. And I've also killed a bird sitting down there, one of those stumps. So I've killed 2 birds in here before. And it's just real important when you go into areas that you're familiar with, go ahead and have places picked out that you know, hey, I've done this before, I've sat in here, this is a good area, a good location. I'll go ahead and pile up a little bit of brush, and that way you're not scrambling around, and if the Tom does something that you don't expect, you might be protected and you might be hidden from his vision, because they got the best vision in the woods. Okay, so I'm gonna ease on out of here. It's probably about 8:30. And I got in here long before daylight. There were several times gobbling. This ridge over here has got a lot of birds on it. But the bad thing about it is right about there, that's where the game lands start. So I got to be careful, if I go over there and hunt, I can't go down too low. And that's a long hike over there, so you'll waste your time. But today it worked out really good. That Tom came in from above and worked around. So this is Tuesday. So I'm gonna make a mental note. Now all these birds on a normal pattern, I don't know. But I'm gonna write down in my notes that on Tuesday I had a Tom come in here. And I tried to stalk up there and I did get a visual on him. Couldn't tell how big he is, but I'm gonna say he's probably a 2-year-old bird. So I'm gonna ease on out of here. But just remember, go in and do some scouting, get prepared, get certain places set up. I've got more than one location set up on this ridge in here. I got one here, I got one over there, and I've got one up there. So I don't have to scramble around trying to find a place. When I know there's birds in the area, I've already got trees, stumps, whatever, picked out, ready to get set up for a killing setup on a bird. So let's get on out of here. And hopefully, when the season opens up, we're gonna get some birds on the ground.